when the Take It Down Act ensnared an innocent Texan's life. Jasmine Crockett confronted Senator Ted Cruz, turning a quiet committee hearing into a viral showdown over digital rights and government overreach. Within minutes, clips of the exchange were rocketing across social media, igniting furious debate. Hashtags like #DigitalFreedom and #Crockett vs. Cruz began trending, with millions of views pouring in showing a nation captivated by the raw confrontation. News anchors scrambled to cover the unfolding drama, and commentators on every major network began dissecting the implications of the Take It Down Act in real time, its supposed benefits now overshadowed by the human cost laid bare. Just 48 hours earlier, Senator Cruz had been basking in the glow of legislative success. The Take It Down Act, his signature bill, had just passed and been signed into law by President Trump. It was hailed as a monumental victory against the rising tide of deepfakes and non-consensual intimate imagery. In his private office overlooking the Capitol, Cruz reviewed the glowing press coverage, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. "Flawless," he'd remarked to his chief of staff, tapping a news article. "We've given victims the tools, and we've put the onus squarely on these platforms. No more turning a blind eye." His confidence was palpably and almost impenetrable, shield built from legislative victories and a seemingly unshakable public image. He saw the upcoming Senate Commerce Committee hearing on digital privacy and consumer protection as a mere formality, opportunity to further champion his bill and dismiss any lingering criticisms as partisan noise. Meanwhile, in her more modest congressional office, Representative Jasmine Crockett was poring over documents that told a very different story. Her phone buzzed constantly with updates from Dallas. The case of Sarah Jenkins, a graphic designer from Fort Worth, had landed on her desk 2 days prior, desperate plea for help. Sarah, a single mother, was facing severe legal penalties under the newly enacted Take It Down Act because of a deepfake image that had appeared online. It wasn't revenge porn, it was an altered image of her at a protest, manipulated to make it appear as if she was engaging in illegal activity. The original image, entirely innocuous, had been taken from her public social media. The deepfake, however, had gone viral. Despite Sarah's immediate attempts to have it removed, the digital forensics required to prove its artificial nature were complex and costly far beyond her means. Law enforcement, operating under the broad definitions of the new act, had moved swiftly, charging her with dissemination of harmful content because the deepfake had caused public disruption and incited false accusations against her. Crockett felt a surge of cold fury mixed with a familiar, quiet determination. This wasn't about revenge porn or deepfakes alone, it was about the chilling effect on ordinary citizens, caught in the crosshairs of a law designed with good intentions, but crafted with dangerous imprecision. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett saw in Sarah Jenkins's case a chilling example of how unchecked legislation could trample civil liberties. Determined to make a stand, Crockett came to the Senate Commerce Committee hearing prepared not just with documents, but with the very tools used to create the deepfake that led to Sarah's prosecution. Free open-source software accessible to anyone online. The hearing began with Senator Ted Cruz confidently touting the Take It Down Act as a flawless victory against digital exploitation, declaring it a triumph for victims and a safeguard for digital integrity. But when Crockett spoke, her voice cut through the room's polished rhetoric as she raised concerns about the law's real-world consequences. Cruz interrupted, insisting that any harm resulted from user error or misunderstanding, implying that Sarah was at fault. Crockett, undeterred, laid out the facts. Sarah Jenkins, a single mother from Fort Worth, was charged for disseminating harmful content via a deepfake not pornographic, but a manipulated protest photo that falsely portrayed her as committing a crime. Despite her attempts to remove it, the cost and complexity of proving its inauthenticity made justice unattainable. "Senator," Crockett said firmly, This isn't just about harmful content, it's about access, abuse, and burden of proof. The room fell silent as the weight of her words settled in. Then, Crockett did something no one expected. With the committee's permission, I'd like to demonstrate just how easily digital forgeries, like the one in Sarah Jenkins's case, can be created, Crockett said, signaling to her aide. A technician stepped forward with a laptop, and moments later, a simple interface appeared on the large screen behind them. This is a publicly available deepfake application, Crockett explained, as she navigated the software with practiced ease. She uploaded a generic stock photo and, with just a few adjustments, the image began to shift first, the person's expression, then their clothing, and finally, their entire setting. Placing them in a compromising scenario, the transformation took less than 30 seconds. This, Senator, is not the work of criminal masterminds. This is consumer-grade technology, she said. The room fell silent even. Senator Cruz leaned forward, his previous air of dismissal replaced by focused unease. Now imagine this, Crockett continued, her voice resonating through the chamber. Applied to a real photo of an ordinary citizen like Sarah Jenkins, an image she may have shared innocently from a vacation or community event, twisted without her consent into something malicious. Something that destroys reputations, invites criminal charges, and appends lives. She turned toward Cruz, her tone sharper. The Take It Down Act, Senator, in its broad strokes and lack of specific safeguards, has made it easier for bad actors to weaponize digital content against innocent people and, paradoxically, made it harder for those victims to clear their names. You call this legislation flawless, yet it ensnared an innocent Texan because of its design. It prioritizes speed of removal over accuracy of identification, creating a legal minefield for victims. Cruz attempted to respond. Congresswoman, the act contains provisions for due process. If Ms. Jenkins is innocent, the courts, Senator, are a slow and expensive recourse, Crockett cut in, her voice rising. Ms. Jenkins faces immediate legal and financial ruin. Her child is at risk. Your so-called flawless act has destroyed her life not because of what she did, but because of what was done to her, and because of the overwhelming difficulty of proving innocence against a sophisticated digital lie. The act's language is so broad, so sweeping, that it criminalizes content without properly distinguishing between genuine malice and fabricated manipulation by third parties. She then laid down a thick binder. Here, Senator, are the police reports, court filings, and a sworn affidavit from Ms. Jenkins detailing every desperate attempt she made to have this deepfake promised a solution. Efforts that were Sarah Jenkins with bureaucratic obstacles became the problem. And technical indifference. As Jasmine Crockett delivered her impassioned evidence-backed rebuttal in the Senate hearing room, the weight of her words settled over the chamber like a storm cloud. Senator Cruz opened his mouth, then closed it again, searching for a rebuttal that wouldn't sound like a concession. His carefully constructed image of the act as an unassailable shield for victims was visibly cracking under the pressure of Sarah Jenkins's very real, very public suffering. The hearing room, usually a place for calculated political theater, had transformed into a raw battleground where legal abstraction met human cost. Crockett's demonstration of how easily a deepfake could be made had stripped away the protective veil of jargon, revealing the dangerous gaps in a law passed too quickly and with too little scrutiny. The silence that followed her closing statement was deafening. The aftermath was swift and explosive. By the time Crockett exited the room, her phone buzzed with non-stop alerts. Headlines screamed across the screens. Crockett blasts Cruz over deepfake law and Take It Down Act's dark side exposed. Her demonstration clip went viral within minutes. Hashtags like #StandWithSarah and #Crockett for Justice surged across platforms. Legal analysts dissected the broad, vague language of the act. Yet, for Crockett, the victory was tempered by exhaustion. The adrenaline faded, replaced by a hollow ache. Back in her office, The world outside buzzed with excitement, but she felt detached, numb. Her aide handed her a stack of messages and a lukewarm coffee, but Crockett barely reacted. The validation came at a cost. Threatening messages began to pour in, vile accusations from anonymous accounts, claiming she sided with criminals or endangered national security. Even her personal phone, reserved for family, rang with concerned calls. That evening, back in her modest D.C. apartment, she tried to decompress, but Sarah Jenkins's haunted face etched in her memory from the affidavit wouldn't let go. Her sister called from Texas, her voice tight with fear. "Jasmine, are you safe? Those messages online, they're terrifying." Crockett forced calm into her voice. "I'm fine, sis. Just keyboard warriors. It comes with the territory." But after hanging up, the isolation hit hard. The battle was far from over, and the personal toll had already begun to mount. Sleep brought no escape, only broken dreams filled with digital shadows and courtroom echoes. Each morning, she woke with a dull ache behind her eyes, the unrelenting pressure of fighting a powerful system starting to fray her resolve. The spotlight was a double-edged sword. It illuminated injustice, but also exposed her to the worst corners of public hate. And so, she reminded herself, each day this fight was bigger than her discomfort. It was about justice for Sarah, and for every future victim the law might fail. It was about principle. Just over 2 weeks later, an unexpected ally emerged and shifted the public debate in a profound way. Dr. Eris Thorne, a renowned MIT computer science professor and a leading voice in AI ethics, published an op-ed in the New York Times titled "The Unseen Casualties of Digital Legislation." Known as a strong advocate for responsible AI development, Dr. Thorne had long supported the use of AI to combat truly malicious deepfakes. But in this piece, he explicitly cited the case of Sarah Jenkins and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's powerful testimony before the Senate committee. When a law designed to curb abuse inadvertently criminalizes the innocent, Thorne wrote, "We have not achieved justice. We have simply shifted the burden onto the most vulnerable." He emphasized the critical flaw in the Take It Down Act, its dependence on a reactive takedown mechanism, lacking provisions for verifying authenticity or protecting those falsely accused. His op-ed validated Crockett's position, not through political rhetoric, but through scientific reasoning and ethical clarity. It was a game-changer. His respected apolitical voice lent newfound weight to the call for reform. Empowered by this momentum and the continued public outrage, Congresswoman Crockett held a press conference on the Capitol steps, wind tousling her hair. Her voice, though tired, carried a renewed fire. "2 weeks ago," she began, "I stood in a committee room and showed how easily a deepfake can be created. Today, with the principled support of experts like Dr. Eris Thorne, the nation understands what's truly at stake. The Take It Down Act was passed with good intentions, but its execution has revealed dangerous flaws. It burdens innocent citizens with the impossible task of proving a negative that an image isn't real even when the evidence is digital, viral, and false. This isn't about being for or against technology. It's about ensuring that our laws reflect digital reality without sacrificing fundamental rights." She paused, scanning the crowd of reporters. "We must amend this act. We need clear, verifiable standards for content authenticity. We must provide both legal and technical aid to the wrongly accused. Most importantly, we must meet technological advancement not with panic, but with policies that protect both victims and the innocent. My fight is for Sarand, for every American who deserves to live free from the fear of digital fabrication, and free from laws that criminalize their very existence online." Her words were clear, resolute, and carried far beyond Washington, echoing in communities across the country. In a small apartment in Fort Worth, Sarah Jenkins watched the press conference on her tablet, clutching a worn stress ball. The past 2 weeks had been a blur of legal battles, media attention, and paralyzing anxiety. The viral footage of Crockett's committee speech had brought waves of support, but also intensified scrutiny. Still, seeing Crockett there calm, commanding, speaking her name aloud, felt like a lifeline. For the first time, Sarah saw her struggle not as a personal failure, but as part of a larger, broken system, and someone was finally fighting to fix it. That night, after putting her son to bed, Sarah Jenkins opened her laptop not to check legal updates, but to search for something different. She came across a small local online group dedicated to digital literacy and online safety. They were just getting started, but their mission struck a chord. For weeks, Sarah had felt like a victim, isolated, powerless, caught in the gears of a cold, impersonal legal machine. But after watching Congresswoman Crockett speak truth to power, she felt something new: agency. The next morning, she joined the group's virtual meeting and introduced herself. "My name is Sarah Jenkins, and I'm the woman caught in the Take It Down Act. I want to help. I want to share my story to teach others how easily this can happen." Her voice was steady, her resolve clear. She began volunteering, using her experience to raise awareness about digital manipulation and the real-life consequences of flawed legislation. Through workshops, online talks, and open discussions, Sarah became a powerful advocate for education and reform, offering insight into the dangers of deepfakes and the urgent need for more thoughtful digital policy. Her personal pain, amplified by Crockett's public courage, began to spark change not just in laws, but in people. Across her community, others became more informed, more cautious, and more vocal in their demands for digital rights. The echoes of that congressional confrontation, once confined to a committee room, now rippled outward into classrooms, community forums, and households, creating a grassroots wave of awareness and empowerment. Because when laws meant to protect us become the very tools of our harm, we must ask, what responsibility do we bear to ensure our digital world remains a place of freedom, not fear? Subscribe to stay informed on the evolving fight for digital rights and the everyday people leading the charge.